I have not gone insane. This is not a cry for help. There are no typos in the title of this video in the bar below. I mean it when I say that I think Virginia can be a playoff team this year. And I'm going to lay out exactly how it happens and let you decide if you're hopping on this bandwagon with me or not, or if I'm full of shit. You let me know. And look at a metric called SP Plus. And SP Plus rankings are basically, they account for tempo, they account for opponent adjusted rating system, and it's all created by Bill Connolly, who Football Hardos, you know his stuff. He writes some great stuff for ESPN. But it's just like an overall catch-all metric of how good is this team, ranking all 120 teams in college football based on efficiency of offense, like defense, special teams, the whole deal. And no metrics are perfect, but this one is pretty good. For all you guys on the live, you're seeing this. Look at the schedule left for Virginia. That's a gettable schedule now. They got the Cougs, bottom of the country. Carolina, bottom of the country. Worse than the Cougs. Shout out the Cougs. Cal. Kind of surprised Cal's 83, but that's where they're at. Wake Forest, middle of the pack, below middle of the pack. Duke. All right, that's their best school, 44th, but nothing to really write home about. Virginia Tech, bottom of the country. That is a very, very gettable schedule. The formula is Virginia wins out. They wouldn't have any signature wins the rest of the way, but they would be able to hang their hat on a win versus Louisville and a win versus Florida State. Florida State, in this scenario that I'm painting, would have to win out because that needs to be their quality win. It can't be, their best win if it's like an 8-4 Virginia Tech team, or maybe even a 3-win. No, a 3-win would be good enough. But that would be the criticism for Virginia is strength to schedule is booty. They would also need Georgia Tech to slip up once in ACC play before they play Georgia to end the year. For those of you guys on the live, check out Georgia Tech's remaining schedule. Very similar. Virginia Tech, Duke. They got Syracuse, which Syracuse is looking rough without Angelia there. NC State is the game that Virginia lost, which we'll get into that. Actually, no, I'll get into that right now. So one thing that people are sleeping on with this this could very well be a huge factor. NC State's win versus Virginia does not count as a conference loss for Virginia. That could be the factor that decides the CFP's fate in this scenario. Very bizarre from what I understand or from what I read, because on paper that makes no sense. NC State's in the ACC, Virginia's in the ACC, but that game was scheduled as an out-of-conference game. They both needed a game, Power 4 opponent. That game technically does not count as a conference loss, which is important when you talk about Georgia Tech, because if it's a tiebreaker situation and Georgia Tech has one conference loss, in this scenario, Virginia would make the ACC playoff, and Georgia Tech would be on the outside looking in, and Yellow Jacket fans would be pissed because in this scenario, maybe they would have beat NC State and on paper have the tiebreaker over Virginia. But how I see it, and I don't think I'm wrong, but I could be wrong, it wouldn't necessarily be a tiebreaker because Virginia would have a better conference record than Georgia Tech. If they're both undefeated in ACC play, Georgia Tech would get the nod because they would have the win over NC State. I said that. From there, the tiebreaker rules after conference play, which again, NC State, not a conference game. But after that, tiebreaker rules would be head-to-head competition between the two tied teams. They do not play each other. And then win percentage versus all common opponents, which would be Wake Forest, Duke, Virginia Tech, and NC State. NC State would be the kicker in that, which if it got to the third tiebreaker, then Georgia Tech would get in. But that's obviously getting way in the weeds. At the end of the day, Miami needs to dominate the rest of the way for Virginia to get in, because the way this scenario plays out is everything I just said about Virginia. They face in the ACC title game versus Miami. Miami's undefeated, arguably the top team in the country. Virginia loses to Miami close in the ACC championship game. And so they're able to hang their hat on, hey, we took arguably the best team in the country toe-to-toe. Our second loss would have been in a conference title game. So all you teams that are sitting on your couch not having to play for a conference title game, that shouldn't work in your benefit. That shouldn't necessarily work against me, Virginia, if I lost in the conference title game. And you're also able to say, a 2-loss team, those 2 losses, one of which is the best team in the country. The other one is early on in the season versus NC State that went down to the wire. That is the resume for Virginia to get into the college football playoff. You agree with me or not? Let me know down below in the comments or here live on the stream.